Joined now by TSN hockey analyst and former Vancouver Canuck, Mr. Frank Corrado, who's at the Memorial Cup in Saginaw and is going to give us an update on Canucks prospect Josh Bloom here in a bit. But first, Frank, how we doing?
Good. It's weather's been great. I gotta say, like, this event has been awesome. Nothing has been overlooked here, from the arenas to the hotels to the fan festivals. Like, everything has been thought of and accounted for, and it's been a great time so far.
Good. Yeah. USA knows how to do events. Like, they go big. Yes. Yeah.
The on ice fight cam was getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
The man in white skating around a fight. That must have been an interesting experience to be the cameraman and around a fight that close.
So this is, I'm pretty sure, like, it's the same person who does it for all the TSN events that we are allowed to do these things at.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's on the ice for the World Juniors all the time, but there's no fights at the World Juniors. Right. And so now in the Memorial Cup, we get a fight. And I thought that was unbelievable. The angles right up close and personal was amazing. It was really, really well done. Have you guys seen our friend Julia Teixeira doing her hit in warm-up at center ice on skates, doing the interviews on skates? Have you seen that?
Did not see that. That's revolutionary.
Yeah, she got her skates sharpened, ready to go, and she's been doing her pregame hit at center ice during warm-up, which has been really cool too.
I'm not, but there's a lot of people inside the arena and watching at home that are hoping she bails. That are hoping. That's the case. It's like when it's like when the national anthem guy fell down when Mark Donnelly tripped on the cord. People are just
that was in Penticton, right?
For these. Yes. No, it was Surrey.
That was in Surrey.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's ingrained in my memory. I did notice though, a couple of the linesmen now, they're really working their last name of their jersey in the background of Julia's shot, just to make sure they get the last name in there. Very good. Julia's a good skater though. She ain't falling.
Yeah. Well, just for the record, I'm for nobody falling on the ice at any point in time. Mostly number 40 for the Vancouver Canucks. If we can transition, Frank.
Oh, wow.
To you played for Rutherford, Alvin, and Tocchet and Pittsburgh. It's our first opportunity to talk to you since the Canucks exit interviews and end of your media availability, where Elias outlined a knee injury. Tocchet called it tendinitis, and there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between player, coach, and organization. Well, first of all, tell us what you made of last Thursday in the Canucks end of your media availability.
I found it odd. I found the whole messaging around Pettersson's injury and how it was handled. I did find it odd. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but like, to just say that, it's just tendinitis, I don't think that does justice to what the player would have been feeling for the amount of time he would have been feeling it. Like, that's just a blanket term that you use it doesn't even describe it. It's literally just a blanket term. Like, I've had knee tendinitis. It's awful. It sucks. There's varying degrees of it. There's some where it's like you put a little strap around your knee and magically you don't feel anything. And it's like, wow, that's great. You go out and play. And then there's other versions of it where it's not in a good spot and it hurts a lot and you have to manage the pain and you have to manage your workload. That's when it turns into, it goes from put a strap on it, like little Band-Aid, to we need to come up with a treatment plan, a workload plan, and try and make sure that we can maximize what you have available to you during the games. And that's where you really need people who are experts in their field to manage that. And a guy like Pettersson, and a lot of these guys actually down the stretch, they don't need to practice. Like, they don't need to practice every single day. Those guys need to be feeling 100% ready for the games. And that is what the treatment plan should be all about. But it takes, like if you have to diagnose it, which is difficult, then you have to come up with a plan that makes sense. Then you have to execute on that plan. Like, it's easy to do that, and not everyone has it in their wheelhouse as far as on the on the treatment side of things. But I thought, I thought it was weird messaging. And I think just using the blanket term tendinitis, it makes Pettersson look soft, and he's not soft. I think he's he would have played through stuff if he could have.
Let me ask you this. That PD detailed the injury, and that you had guys like Philip Hronek ready to fight Jeff Pettersson to continue to lie about his injury or not disclose his injury. How does that play in the room?
I see. No one really cares about that kind of stuff. Like, I think it's up to you. If you want to describe what went on with you, that's your prerogative. If you don't want to describe what went on, that's also your prerogative. Like, everyone has their own reasons for why they want to outline something or won't outline something. Like, no one in the room is ever going to talk about that and be like, hey, why did you say this? Why did you say that? But I did, the Hronek Pettersson thing was interesting. And I kind of, now being on this side of things, like, I get both sides of it. Like, Hronek doesn't really talk during the season. And I think, obviously Jeff, he wants to tell a story. He wants to, dig into what happened. So I get that. At the same time, if you're the player and you answer a question that's a yes or no question in a yes or no fashion, that kind of is what it is, man. Like, like, not everyone, you can be honest if you think that's being honest, but you don't have to be, forthcoming, I guess. And
you don't have to be at all. There's a lot of players that turned down and declined and said that they weren't injured. A lot of players said that. Ian Cole, who's clearly injured too. It was the absolute indignation that how dare you even suggest it? My goodness. Well, I mean, that was ridiculous.
It's our responsibility to ask open-ended questions, or to follow up when asking yes or no questions. I thought the juxtaposition interesting between Pettersson and then Hughes and Hronek, who came immediately thereafter and didn't want to disclose anything. Let me ask you this. Do you have to have a high pain threshold to play for Tocchet? Like, does he expect more of that than your average coach? And he talks about pushing through all the time. Do you think he's got a culture or a way about him that you've got to push through, that he draws the line between hurt and injured a little more on the hurt side than the injured side?
No, I don't think so. I think all these coaches would be the same way. Like, if you leave it up to the coach is going to expect you to play through a certain amount of, and not injury. Like, you're not playing through injury. You're just playing through pain. It's different. I think it's very important to distinguish that playing hurt and playing injured are two very different things. A lot of guys play hurt. A lot of guys play banged up. It kind of comes with the territory. When you play injured, that's when bad things happen. That's when you take years off your career because you're putting yourself in a bad spot. I think every coach around the league expects their players to realize that you're not going to feel 100%. You might not feel 100% the whole season, but you do have a responsibility to kind of lay it on the line a little bit. That's where, I think that's where whoever's calling the shots behind the scenes, as far as, here's the diagnosis, here's the treatment plan. I think that's where having, an expert at the top of their field who deals with human performance, I think that's where, and I'm not privy to any of that within the organization, obviously, but that's where having someone like that really comes through. And, it can kind of help you manage those situations a little bit better. But I don't think Tocchet is expecting anything out of the ordinary that, the next coach in the NHL is not requiring. Every coach around the league is requiring that.
So you may have already answered this in your detail. Is tendinitis injury?
It's not an injury. It's playing hurt. And last time I checked, he played. Did he not? Like, he played hurt. He didn't perform to the level that we, kind of expect from him, but he played. So, he didn't pull the shoot. He didn't say, he didn't pull a Kawhi Leonard and say, sorry, got tendonitis, not playing for 3 weeks. And, you guys got to shut me down. Like, I don't know. Farhan, he's down at every practice. We get the reports. I saw Pettersson practicing a lot. I didn't see him miss games. So I think, you can of course judge his performance, and now we know what was behind the performance, but doesn't sound like he was saying, throw me a day off
No.
here, throw me 2 weeks off here. He was still playing. So I think at the end of the day, you can give him credit for not pulling the shoot.
Do you think that Pettersson simply needed something to explain do you think it was a pride issue, that he just needed something to explain his poor performance in the playoffs and really for a lot of the second half?
Okay, if I was held to a high standard as a player, the way he is, and all of a sudden my play just fell off a cliff, and people wanted to know why that happened, and there's a reason why that happened, why wouldn't I tell you? Like, why would I internalize that, and why would I just say, no, I'm not going to let it out there? Like, of course I'm going to tell you. And I don't think it's pandering for an excuse. I don't think it's pandering for sympathy. I just think that's a guy who took a lot of heat, whether it was on the national scale or even in the local market. And he's like, you know what? This is the reason why. And, you can make your judgments as you see fit. But every year, come playoff time, there's teams, they give the laundry list of who was playing through what. And I see it as no different. Now we know the whole story, and now we know why. I don't see it as an excuse. Of course, it's probably the reason behind the lack of production, but I don't have an issue with it. Everyone's going out there saying broken bone, bruised ribs, all these kinds of things. It doesn't sound the same because, tendonitis sounds like, someone at the Y who's on the elliptical machine, but it's just, unless you're privy to what actually he was feeling and dealing with, we just have to know he was out there and he was trying and pushing through, and that wasn't the Pettersson that everyone knows can play.
Obviously, a lot of Canucks are owed contracts for this upcoming season. Joshua Zadorov, Lindholm, Hronek. This is a storybook season. You could run it back with the same crew, or try to, at the very least. Economically, that's going to be really difficult. Do they try to run back as many guys as you can, or do you say, hey, no, we have to evolve and admit that you got to move on to some other guys?
No, I think if you can make guys work that were here previously and understand what Talkett wants to do and how this team wants to play and what you've tried to build this season, you try and bring as many of those guys back as you can. It kind of goes back to that old saying, like, if you ever had a normal job, right? Like, what do they talk about? Like, it's easier to retain your staff than it is to go out and bring them in and train them exactly on what you're trying to do. And now you have people who have kind of caught the bug here as far as the playoff success and what they did in the regular season. So I think if you can make it work, retaining as many of these guys as you can within the proper cap structure is always going to be best. But I think that's going to be challenging, especially considering pretty much everyone wants a significant raise. Like Lindholm, he's going to want a big raise. Joshua's going to get a raise. Hronek wants a massive raise. Like, how does that work? I know there's going to be cap space. It'll be interesting now to see the difference in this organization between essentially trying to shed money, in order to set yourself up, and now how do you spend the money properly in order to set yourself up. But I am always of the belief that if you can keep a group together and guys that have had success here, why go elsewhere and seek it out if you have it available to you right in your own organization? But it has to work financially.
Do you love anybody on the unrestricted list for defensemen? If they have to move on from certainly Zadorov and even Hronek, if he's just asking for exorbitant sums and you do have to move on, Pesce, Montour, Walker, anybody like you just think is a gem out there that would be a great pickup?
Okay, so I'm looking now. Like, everyone knows the big names, right? It's Pesce, Montour. Like, I really like Brady Shea. I think he doesn't get enough love in Carolina, and he scores goals. Like, he produces a lot from the back end. And I think there's going to be some different names out there. Like Matt Grzelcyk is a guy in Boston, like, who's a good good skater, good puck mover, but he's smaller, and he was in and out of the lineup come playoff time. How about former Vancouver Canuck Jalen Chatfield, who was so good in Carolina this year? Like there's a guy, and you go through. Sean Walker was great in Colorado until the playoffs hit, and then they acquired him, and they didn't get any production from the back end from him. Of course, Chris Tanev's out there. Shane Gostisbehere would not be a good fit in Vancouver, probably because of Quinn Hughes is already running the first power play unit, but he had a really, really good year, and he's a good offensive guy. Like there's a lot of D available. It kind of just depends on what you value. But you almost have to compare now. I think the comparison has to be between what's Hronek gonna make and what does he bring to your team, and can you find a similar impact for a lesser dollar value, which might actually be out there on the UFA market.
Are the Hurricanes really not going to? Are they going to lose all of those defensemen? Do you think, is that a possibility?
I have no idea what they're going to do there.
Like that's a lot of D man just walking from the Carolina.
That's half your defense group.
Yeah.
If it's Shea,
I know,
Pesci, and
Chatfield.
So then, knowing what you know, Rutherford and Alvin, ask you the poll question: who's played their last game with the Canucks? Hronek, Joshua, Zadorov, none of the above.
Who can they do without?
That's a good question, actually. I kind of it's tough to predict. I kind of think Zadorov. I don't know why I think that, but I think he's the type of, like, I think he's going to get every last penny that is out there for him, and I'm not sure Vancouver is going to be able to get to every last penny for him. Like there's probably going to be a team that pays him like a top 4 guy, but we saw when he's slotted correctly how effective he can be. I think that might be the one where it's like you probably have to make a contingency plan because he's going to extract every last penny.
Yeah. Last question here, Frank, but Josh Bloom, Canucks prospect, winger with the Saginaw Spirit. You've got him there at the Memorial Cup. Second year in a row, he was more than a point per game player in the Ontario Hockey League, albeit as an overager. He turns 21 next week or in a couple weeks here. Hasn't been that level in the postseason. Had some injuries this year as well. Tell us what you've seen of Josh Bloom. You think
hardworking guy?
Mm-hmm.
Hard-working guy, straight line player, and he seems to be pretty loud on the ice, pretty loud in the dressing room from what we've seen from some of the clips from Saginaw. Like he's right in the thick of everything, and he wants the puck a lot. That's one thing I noticed, like watching him play. Like he does the beaver tap, which if I ever met him, I would tell him to stop doing that and like call for the puck. But like he wants it. He's really willing to get in on the forecheck. Like there's nothing fancy about his game, but I think it's an effective game, and he plays a busy style of game. So he's been noticeable. Like if you looked on the ice,
does he use speed to make that noise, or is it just fine?
No, like he's pretty fast. Like he's willing. Like he's willing. He's a straight line guy. Chip and chase. Use your speed. Get in on the forecheck. Play on the cycle. Like he's that type of player, but he's pretty effective at it. I think he's a loud-ish kind of player, but it's hard to not notice him because he tries to get involved and be in the middle of a lot of things. But like straight line guy, north south guy, and he'll be effective that way, and that's what his game is going to be.
Sounds like a Tocchet style winger, and we should note he did play 22 pro games this year, 14 with Abbotsford, 8 with Kalamazoo, just the 3 assists before going back to Saginaw. What do you got against the Beaver Tap?
It's not professional.
Oh, it's beer league. Okay,
really?
You call professional hockey. You call for the puck. You don't do the Beaver Tap.
Oh, who taught you that, or did you come to that conclusion?
You know who taught me that? Chris Kontos. Remember the name Chris Kontos?
Yeah, of course. Once upon a time, Stanley Cup playoff hero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris is great. So I played with his son in Sudbury. So I would go up to Penetanguishene, Ontario, and skate with Chris and his son Christoph. And he would be adamant. Every drill, every rep we did, you have to call for the puck or we start over again. And it's like, you know what? Other guys told me that too. I think like throughout the course of my career, like you call for the puck. You use your words. You don't beaver tap. That's
Really?
just me being like an old man, I guess.
I
Old
like
man
it.
yelling
Okay.
at
No,
clouds.
hey, there are things that are very chill, and that sounds pretty.
I like it when you age before our eyes and start to
Right,
catch up
exactly.
to that.
We always think
good.
you as
Yeah,
young
yeah.
22-year-old right shot defenseman Frankie Corrado,
Yeah.
but now you old, bro.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy the Memorial Cup. We'll catch up next week.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye now.